Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Quantum Alignment Show. I'm Karen Curry Parker. I'm here with Cindy Harley. We are super excited to share with you today information about Saturn and how to look at Saturn in your chart. What does it mean, the role that Saturn plays in our lives, and what are the crucial power points when we push with Saturn or we experience information or alignment from Saturn to help us bring out the fullest expression of who we are and our design and the story that you are living in right now. So I'm going to start today with, first of all, just sort of gently reminding you guys that the last couple weeks I covered Chiron. I covered the years 1950 through the year 1980. And if you go back, if you look on the Facebook page, if you see on the left-hand side, there's a menu there, and it'll say things like events. Check out the events. We have some really cool events coming up. I will actually be live in Dallas, Texas at Unity of Dallas Thursday night at 7 p.m., May the 3rd, this upcoming week. So come join me there live. I'm going to be presenting information about quantum creativity and human design, and I'll be there with Bobby Klein, one of my students, and we'll be running charts and talking about human design and the nature of how to activate your full creative potential. On Sunday, May the 6th, live online, we'll be doing a virtual event. This is our monthly human design community event where we open up powerful information and we open it up to everyone. This is a non-exclusive event, meaning this is an event that has a lot of different levels of participation for registration, where we come together as a community and create the support to host this event and share it with our human design community. We're going to be talking about life cycles, and in addition to the Sunday training where we're going to talk about all the different life cycles in the human design life cycle, or your human design life over the course of your long life, we're also going to be breaking out at different dates and talking about specific life cycles in open Q&A forums. So it's an exciting program. We'll put the link for that program below so you can check that out and get yourself registered for that. Again, I hope to see you live in Dallas. We are going to look at Saturn. It's going to help if you have your human design chart. We are going to look at gates. As we look at the gates, you might want to look at your own gate definition. I will look at, or at least take some charts if I can, depending on timing. I know I won't be able to get to a lot, and I hate that. But I am going to empower you to be able to discover this information for yourself. It will benefit you if you have a copy of my book, Understanding Human Design, because in this book there is information about all of the gates, and not just information about the gates. There are actually little exercises you can do, little writing exercises, little affirmations you can use to help you understand in a very practical way, not in a fluffy woo-woo way, but in a very practical, grounded way. What do these energies mean for you? How do you live these themes out? And specifically, of course, today we're going to talk about how do those themes play out in your Saturn energy. So without further ado, I'm going to show you guys some slides. Get us started. Cindy, is there anything else I need to add?
No, I think that was it.
Okay, good.
The only thing else might be the Master Alignment Program coming up.
Yes, I will. Yes, we also have coming up in May, and again, I'll post information when we're not quite there yet, but we have the dates. The Master Alignment Program is a quantum alignment system program. It's a fully integrated process where we look at the elements that might be keeping you from fully manifesting what you want to be manifesting, full expression of your human design chart in your life. We use integrated energy psychology techniques. We use subtle body therapies, including essential oils and flower essences. We use coaching practices, and we use a process that helps you consciously, deliberately tap into the quantum field so that you are manifesting in your life the full expression of your potential, and you're not letting things like your issues around your lovability or the issues around your power or the issues around your self-worth keep you stuck or blocked from creating what you really deserve to be creating in your life. So we'll put some information about that below too. So today, Saturn. But before we can talk about Saturn, we got to talk about life cycles and what they really mean. And to do that, we really have to look at your soul, planets, and life cycle, and how the planets and your soul and your life purpose all dance together, and what you can do to really activate, ultimately, that's the end game here, activate the purpose of your soul by design. And before we can really look at that, we have to really engage in the question of, why are you here? Not the why are you here, like, are you here to be a fireman? Why are you here? But the bigger, why are you here? The purpose of life, and actually the chart shows us this, is the purpose of life is growth and evolution, growth and expansion. And in the incarnation of our life, in the story that you're living right now, the underlying directive of your life is for your soul to embody this life story, and through that embodiment, have experiences that facilitate and enhance the growth and evolution of consciousness and your soul. And from that experience of growth and evolution, you actually add to the evolution of growth and expansion, evolution of consciousness on the planet. And if you want to take a bigger perspective, in the cosmos. So your work that you're doing right here in this lifetime, you being the full manifestation of who you are, you being the evolving, growing self that you are, you're not only creating for yourself a better life, you're also adding to the leading edge of growth of consciousness in the cosmos. How's that? Big job, right? One of the things that we learn from human design, and we're going to get a little bit into the weird stuff here, so roll with me here before we get back into Saturn, is that everything in life has crystals of consciousness in it. This world, every aspect of this world, is a manifestation of consciousness. And the code for whatever is manifested is contained in crystalline form. Now, this isn't like a physical crystal, like, you know, if you cut your car apart, or you started using a jackhammer to crack up a bunch of rocks, you wouldn't find like the crystal in the side of it. This is an energy crystal. And you can say crystal, if you're not comfortable with crystal, think of it as a code. Everything contains a code. And the code that everything contains, that code has the information in it for what is the purpose of this? Where is its place in the cosmos? What is it here to do? What is its frequency of energy? What is the story of this thing? You have within you a code. You have a code for your physical. Your DNA is a code, right? It's just a code that encodes the expression of your physical. You also have consciousness codes within you that influence what you're creating and the story of who you perceive yourselves to be. In human design, there are two main crystals of information in your energy field. The first one is called your design crystal. Your design crystal carries your earth story. It's the template, it's the energy code for your life story. It's your energy code for who you are, your life purpose in the story that you're living right. You're living a story right now. This isn't who you are permanently, right? This is a disguise your soul is wearing. You're here, you're on a journey, you're wearing this disguise, you're having this adventure. This is your avatar, right, in the game of life. And that avatar, the construction of that avatar is coded, encoded in part and parcel by your design crystal, which carries the archetypes, your earth archetypes that you're playing with. And it carries what Rupert Sheldrake, who I just had the incredible blessing of interviewing last week. I'll be sharing the interview with you guys in August. Rupert Sheldrake calls your morphogenetic code, meaning the energy template, the blueprint for the unfolding of the story of your life. There's a second crystal that is part of your personality called your personality crystal. The personality crystal carries the intention of your soul in this incarnation, or what I like to call your cosmic self, or your soul purpose. So in your human design chart, you have a code that is your life story, and you have a second code that is your soul's intention. And part of what we see in the unfolding of the story is the quest to bring alignment between these two fields of information. By the way, your personality crystal resides in your ajna. It takes residency there at the moment of your birth. Your design crystal lives, your personality crystal lives in your head center. the design crystal lives in the ajna, and they are connected by the pineal gland, by the way, which is crucial. When we talk about the quantum alignment program, one of the very first things we work on is making sure we activate and clear your pineal gland, which is the gland that is responsible for anchoring you in the time-space continuum. It creates your awareness of time. It's also the gland that connects you with superconsciousness or connects you with your soul purpose. And for you to live a fully aligned life, you need to have harmony between your soul purpose and your life purpose. When we look at your human design chart, and I don't want you to get too locked into the technicalities of this, I'm just really merely showing you this for the sake of it being interesting and cool and for you to not get too distracted by this. And I know people want to go down rabbit holes around this stuff because it's super cool. I get it. If you want to learn more about it, hang on. This summer I have a whole new program coming about this. But your red parts of your design, this is actually your life purpose part of your chart. This is the story of your human life. This is where your human story, the archetypes you're occupying in this lifetime, your life purpose lives in this red part of the chart. The black part of your chart, that is the design of your soul and the code for your soul purpose. Okay, I don't want you, as I said, I don't want you to get too locked into this. I just want you to understand that your soul purpose is black, life purpose is red. There's a reason why we want to look at this. Now, the first thing that we want to look at before we jump into life cycles is, what is the end goal? If you're going to think of human design as being a game, or life being a game that you never want to stop playing because it's awesome, right? Then we have to look at the idea that there's a goal in the game, right? I have my 23-year-old son has come to live with us for a couple of months, and he's been helping me out a lot with my 8-year-old daughter, and he's teaching her Minecraft, right? So there's kind of a goal for the game of Minecraft, right? So they sort of get together and they play and they have these goals for what they're trying to achieve in their Minecraft game. In human design, some of what we're trying to achieve is here in this G center. Remember the G center, well, I didn't tell you this, but write this down. The G center is where the monopole, that morphogenic field and the magnetic resonance field that draws into your life all the experiences you need to fulfill your life purpose, that energy field lives in the G center, or the heart of who you are. What we are trying to do over the course of our life is to, first and foremost, as human beings, live out the fullest expression of self-love. We're here to love ourselves and discover the power of self-love as part of our creative capacity. We are here to discover our power. The Gate 7 says that part of being human means that you are powerful and you have a voice or a say over your own destiny and your direction. We are here to discover through the Gate 1 in the G Center, this is what the Gate 1 tells us, that we are here to be the fullest expression of who we are, and that full expression of who you are is the creative contribution that you give back to the world. You are an artist. Your life is the canvas. That canvas that you paint with the story of who you are in this incarnation adds to the cosmic fabric of who we all are. You are here to have life experiences, to learn from them, to do whatever releasing, healing, forgiving work you need to do, to let them go, and to recreate yourself every morning with the story that best suits the direction you want to take your life, and a story that is the reflection of the magnificence of who you truly are. We are here to take our direction from a deep and abiding relationship with spirit as source. We are here ultimately to surrender our personal selves in service to something bigger than who we are individually. We are here to be fully embodied and vital in our physical form, in our body. We're here to have a good time in these bodies. They're here to teach us things. They're vehicles for the rest of us to get around, right? For our souls to get around. We are here to be and discover the faith and the alignment necessary for us to allow ourselves to be fully supported because we exist. Not because of anything you do, not because of your education, not because of who you know, but simply because you exist. You are so precious and so valuable. Part of what you're here to learn is the value of who you are and the value of allowing yourself to be fully supported and to trust in the cosmic unfolding of the divine plan of your life. And last but not least, we are also here to learn how to share with the world from a place of compassion and to understand that compassion is a direction-giving energy, and ultimately it's an energy that binds and unifies all of us, and that the more we amplify and experience the full expression of who we are, the more we have to share, not only with our close loved ones and the world around us locally, but actually with the world. And that is, as I said, part of what we're here to do, is to give ourselves, the full expression of ourselves, back to the world. The question is, though, and this is the big question, right, is how do we get there? The challenge is, if you accept it, is to master the conundrum between your personal self and your cosmic self, to differentiate first, who am I? Who am I in the context of the world? To differentiate who you are in the world, to really discover yourself. And then ultimately, as you mature, to unify that person who you are with the entirety of humanity. So we have sort of an interesting life path that's about figuring out who you are. And once you figure out who you are, then you take that who you are and put it into unified service to the greater good. And then ultimately, we're here to fulfill our soul purpose. Let's talk now about the planets, life cycles, and the themes they bring. Yes, Cindy?
Before you do that, there was a question from in Zoom here. If the crystals are in open centers, is there any implication to that?
Nope. Definition and openness only means, it only regulates how you use the energy. So if you have a defined ajna, you have a fixed way of using that energy. If you have an open ajna, you have a very malleable, fluid way of experiencing that energy. Does it mean you don't have an ajna if it's open? No. You do have an ajna always. Whether you're open or defined, you always have a head center, you always have an ajna, you always have a throat, G, will, solar plexus, sacral root, spleen. You have all of the chart. We all have all of the chart. Just like we all have on a cellular level, we all have the human genome. But you're not expressing the whole genome, just like you're not expressing the whole chart consistently, but you're experiencing all of it.
Okay,
so,
but
yes.
Everybody has, I mean, everyone will be expressing their design crystal, and everyone will be expressing their,
yes.
And it doesn't make any, that's just where they're placed. Definition
Right.
Doesn't add to that at all.
That's correct. Everybody has a design crystal. Everybody's design crystal is located in the ajna. Everybody has a personality crystal. It's located in the head. Okay. Now, if we're going to break up the game of life into two cycles, two distinctly delineated aspects, we would, and the goals of those cycles, I would say the purpose of your life from birth to about the age of 40, which is when you have your Uranus opposition, which we're not going to talk about today, but just throwing it out there. The purpose of your life from birth to the age of 40 is to differentiate. You're here in those first 40 years of life to figure out, who am I? What are my quirks? What are my drives? What are my desires? What do I want? Who am I separate from everybody else? You're here to differentiate yourself from the whole. You're here to recognize and to ultimately discover for yourself the beauty and the power and the uniqueness of who you are. Once we cross that maturing point into 40, we then come up with we have a different path in our life. We have a different goal in the game. And that goal in the game then is to ask yourself, how can I take this differentiated aspect of who I am and put it into service through my understanding that we are all one, we are unified. How can I take who I am in this incarnation and be of the greatest service to the whole? The planets help us with these cycles. Now, to better understand the messages that your planets bring you, you need to know the themes of the gates. This is definitely a level of understanding your chart at a gate level. We're looking at the gates and we're looking at the planets. So as I said, I like my book just because, of course, I wrote it, but also because at the end of each gate, there's a little section that gives you some homework to do to help you deepen your awareness of the archetypes that you have in your chart. Please do not in any way, shape, or form think that I am telling you my book is the only book. As I have always said, there are some tremendous human design teachers out there, including Chetan Parker, including Zeno, including Linda Bonnell, and the book that she's written based on Ra's work. There are lots of great human design books out there. They are all amazing. Richard Rudd is another one. Go find the books or the teachers who you most resonate with. Human design is about teaching you to follow your own inner authority. So find that place where you relate to and resonate with the teacher that is your teacher, the teacher that's right for you. And maybe it won't even be human design. Maybe it'll be something else. But in the meantime, my book has some great exercises around each of the gates if you want to work with those. So let's start first and let's talk about birth through 40. And we're in a cycle of differentiation. When we go from birth to about 7 years of age, we are looking at the true maturation of a small person into becoming a large person, all right? So what we're looking at when we see this is the maturation of the aura and the preparation of the human being to actually be on the planet. Even though children are born as babies, it takes them a while to get all of their energy organized and integrated and get them ready to really go out and experience the joy of learning to differentiate. When babies are born and when you're small, when you're a young human, your human design centers are actually filtered. And if you are one of those people who are gifted at seeing energy or energy fields, you might even see that the energy centers are sort of filtered. They look kind of like they have mushrooms over them. They're kind of capped off. That's because when a little child is born, they have a difficult time digesting earth energy. They can't take it all in yet because they're not quite here. So they have filters over them to kind of help them filter out some of the energy. And it's really important for a small child, particularly before the maturation of the aura or the energy field, that they have the consistent presence of a loving adult. And this is why I personally am a strong proponent of attachment parenting, because what happens is when you are holding a small child or they have consistent access to you or you're breastfeeding or they're sitting in your lap or rocking whatever they're doing, that physicality of the young human, not only are they getting the neurological stimulation they need for optimal brain growth, did you know, by the way, that it takes 46, write that down, 46 positive physical interactions in a child younger than 2 for them to have optimal brain growth. Think about that. By the way, for you to stay physically healthy, to stay neurologically healthy as you move into adulthood, children older than 2, and certainly older than 7, and adults need 14 positive physical touches a day to maintain optimal neurological development. So the bottom line is, start keeping a tally of how many hugs you're giving and getting. If you're not getting 14 at least every day, start hugging more, because it's good for not only your heart, it's actually important for your neurology, and it keeps your brain healthy. How's that? So young children in the early ages need the presence of a loving adult. Their developmental goals are to discover their lovability, to discover their power, to discover their capability, and to discover safety and trust. All key energies that are vital for a high-functioning human being. The next phase in development is from the ages of 2 through 8. Sorry. This is what we call the cycle of true differentiation. This is really when you actively begin to say, oh, hey, I'm not my parents. I'm my own person. And it's in this cycle that you begin to understand imprinting. You start to go, oh, wait, that's what my parents do. I'm not going to do that. Sometimes we do that by being rebellious, right, in our adolescence. You start to understand openness. You start to recognize where you experience others and where you have variability in your experiences. And you begin to understand intergenerational patterns. If any of you have ever had young adult children, or you remember back to when you were like in your early 20s or even mid-20s, you know that a lot of your thinking, hopefully, was spent sort of contemplating where did you come from? What's your family history? How are you the same as your family? And how are you different from your family? Your developmental goals during this cycle is to establish yourself in a community by displaying your unique gifts, skills, and talents, and to ultimately satisfy your need for respect and recognition, right? When we're young, we want people to respect our work. We want people to respect what we know and respect what we're doing. We want to be recognized for it, right? So we have to first start with looking at, and you guys know this stuff, if you're new to human design, maybe this is a brand new concept. If you're not new to human design, this is one of the basic tenets of human design, and it's really important to understand. So when we go out in the world and we're seeking, yes, Cindy?
Okay, Sharon had a question. Are there types that need attachment less and types that need it more, or do all children need the same?
I think that anytime we try to find a formula, we're screwed. There are no formulas, okay? There are individual needs. But I would say, as a rule of thumb, small children need to have consistent access to a consistent adult energy field, or adults in their energy field if you've got aunts and uncles and whatever. But yes, all children need to have access to it. They might need varying degrees of access to it, for sure. But definitely all children do need it. You're not going to give birth to a ready-made adult. But I'm no formulas. Nixo on the formula, all right?
And if someone, this is a question from the Zoom room, Monday, if you don't think you went through the stages and cycles due to arrested development or trauma, even if the planets did, are you going to talk about what they should do? Or is it possible they won't go through the cycles because of?
So here's what I'm going to say. And I thank you for bringing this up, Mindy, because it's a really important point. The planets are going to go through their cycles, whether you're ready or not. And if you don't complete your developmental tasks along the way, you can get stuck in a developmental cycle. And I would argue very lovingly and gently that most of us are stuck in some elements of a cycle. Very few of us get to grow up in an environment where we are loved by parents who don't also have their own needs and wants in the parenting relationship, consciously or unconsciously, where we are loved unconditionally for who we are, where we are supported in being the full expression of who we are, and where we're taught the degree to which we are capable and allowed to experiment and explore that capability. Children need to feel lovable, powerful, and capable over the course of their lifetime. If you don't get those three core needs met in the very beginning, you might carry echoes of those unmet needs into your adult life and craft behaviors around those unmet needs. Now that's going to be very different. Your needs and the quality of your needs will also vary depending on your human design. So certainly your human design is also going to impact more deeply how you experience, from a child's point of view, things like lovability, capability, empowerment. The planets will move and bring you themes when they do. So let's say you're coming up on your first Saturn cycle, which happens at the end of that first cycle of differentiation. At the end of that, at 28, you get your first Saturn cycle. The planets are going to do what they do, whether you're ready or not. If you don't master the task that the planets lay out for you, it'll be exactly like if you don't master your emotional developmental needs when you're young. You'll get a certain amount of, I'll use your words, arrested development there. You'll have an arrested development in your Saturn cycle. And because of that, you'll carry the echo of that with you until you hit your next cycle, which will be Uranus opposition. And then the Saturn stuff that you didn't resolve will also come up for you in Uranus. Part of why that happens is nothing in your chart is random. And if you have a theme in your Saturn, or you have a theme, or if your Saturn has a theme, or your Neptune has a theme, or your solar position has a theme, or your incarnation cross has a theme, and your Chiron has a theme, I guarantee you I'd lay thousands of dollars down on a bet that would say that theme is played out in multiple layers in your chart. Because you're really here usually to really master one or two core themes, and those core themes will be reflected over and over and over again in the chart. So you'll get an opportunity to deal with the growth incentives in every one of those cycles, and if you don't resolve those cycles, you'll carry the echo of it into the next life cycle, and you'll keep doing that until you get it, or you don't. Which is why it's so important to understand what's coming up for you in these life cycles, because if you can proactively know, okay, this is the theme that's coming up for me, or this is the theme I didn't resolve last time, I better get that handled as I move forward into the next cycle. So it can become a point of growth and expansion instead of a point of contraction and pain. What else were you going to say, Cindy? I hear you.
I'm here. I was just, so what you're saying, what the follow-on question, the child's needs were not met, can they be met later? I mean,
Yes,
that's
totally.
part of what you were just
You can
saying.
totally
Right?
heal. Absolutely. You can always heal. You're not
And
stuck in childhood wounds.
Carol had a comment in the chat here that EFT can address what she says, the ACEs, the adverse childhood events.
Totally. EFT is a very, very powerful tool. And it's actually one of the tools that we use in the quantum alignment system that we use to clear the conditioning field, and we clear trauma and childhood trauma for sure. Absolutely. Imprinting is the second thing that happens to us that we become aware of. We start to, and we grow up in our family, we take in our parents' energy. And we don't just take in their energy where we have openness. I'm sorry, did I even go through this? I didn't go through this. Hold on. Wherever we have openness in the chart is where we take energy and information in from others. So anything that's white in your chart, that's where you're taking energy and information in from the world around you. And you don't just take it in. You take it in and you amplify it. So you're experiencing that energy in an amplified way. And because we don't always understand our human design in the beginning of our lives, that feeling, that experience of feeling other people's energy creates expansion, it creates confusion because we're experiencing other people's energies in an amplified way inside of our body, inside of our energy field. And we oftentimes relate to that energy. We mistakenly identify with it and make decisions based on other people's energies. And it cultivates in us behavioral patterns that help us get our energy needs met in inappropriate, sometimes unhealthy ways as part of not using the highest expression of who we are in our chart. You also will sometimes get imprinted away from your authentic self, who you really are, from your family of origin. Your parents' type and your parents' centers, even if they have openness where you have definition, how your parents behave is going to be part of your imprinting. And again, it can cause you to be disconnected or confused about who you really are. Not only that, the challenge that happens to us, especially from birth to 28, and sometimes going on longer, we are designed to be engaged in intergenerational energy patterns, meaning that you inherit your human design from your grandparents. Your children, if you have children, inherit their design from your parents. And because we have this sort of every other generation energy design happening in a family, we start to see family energy dynamics that are intergenerational. And as you go into your young adulthood, part of what you're doing is you're unraveling these intergenerational family dynamics, or you're unconsciously living them out on top of living out your imprinting and your conditioning. And part of your role, part of your cosmic job is to start unraveling all of this so that you can get back into creating a life that's in sync and in harmony with your authentic truth, your design, your definition, and who you really are, your soul purpose and your life purpose. The next major cycle that happens after 28, from 28 to 40, this is the second growth cycle that we go through as humans, or the third, sorry, as humans. We start to establish self-generated security. That's our job from Saturn to Uranus. From age 28 to 40, we establish our self-generated security. We get jobs. We start to feel successful. We establish our careers. We get married. We have children. These are the jobs, the things we do developmentally from 28 to 40. The developmental goals in this cycle is to discover your true identity by letting go of your dependence on others, to satisfy your need for freedom and autonomy, and to learn about responsibility and accountability. And oftentimes we do that as parents or as married partners or partnered partners that have to be married. The challenge, the part that differentiates, the energy that differentiates between the first cycle, the second cycle, sorry, the second cycle, not the first cycle. So the first cycle is maturation of the aura at 7. 7 to 28, we have differentiation. From differentiation, we then have maturation into self-sufficiency. The demarcation between the differentiation and growing into a mature young person is the first Saturn cycle. The first Saturn cycle happens at approximately 28.6 years of age. Saturn is a very, very powerful energy. Sometimes people call Saturn the great teacher. Whatever energies you're playing with in Saturn, when you can create an alignment between those energies and live out the highest expressions of those energies can actually be the fire or the fuel that allows you to grow and expand your purpose and your direction and the maturity in your life. But Saturn is sometimes also called the Great Destroyer. And sometimes it can certainly feel like that. When you go through a Saturn cycle, it can feel like Saturn comes along and pulls the rug out from under you and everything crashes down to the foundation. I always think of Saturn as being sort of like the tower card in the tarot. If you're familiar with the tower card, you know, the tower card is sort of the tower that falls down and all that's left are the bricks and the foundation. When Saturn comes through in this first major life cycle, this first major energy cycle that the planets bring us, Saturn kind of takes everything down to the foundation. Not because you're here to be punished, not because you screwed up, but because Saturn helps you get down onto that foundational level and look at all of those bricks that were part of that tower, right? And Saturn invites you to look at each brick individually and go, do I like this brick? If I'm going to rebuild, am I going to use this brick? Yeah, I like this brick. Put it here. Do I like this brick? I don't know. This brick sucks. It seems to be crumbly and it's not really serving me. Let's throw it out into the ocean. Saturn is in alchemy, traditional alchemists, when they taught alchemical formulas, they would pray to Saturn in the creative process because it was the energy of Saturn that would burn away the dross. It would burn away everything that didn't serve the process of turning coal into gold, right? So it was the fire that they kept burning under the cauldron to help the coal turn to gold, and it would get rid of everything that didn't serve that transformation process. That's the role of Saturn ultimately, is to help you get rid of everything that's keeping you out of sync, out of harmony, out of alignment with your true purpose, your true intent. And it'll cause you to evaluate your values, your life path, your direction, where you're headed. What do you want? Are you tolerating less than you're worthy of? Are you rationalizing? Are you putting up with things that are stupid, dumb, out of alignment? Are you settling for less than what you're worth and more? And it oftentimes does that by creating sort of a cataclysmic event that sort of takes everything down to the foundation. It is not unusual when Saturn comes to visit for you to feel like you've lost everything. But it's not a losing, it's a transformation. And it doesn't always, by the way, it's not always terrible and awful. I know I'm saying it like that. I have seen it that way, certainly with my clients. But it's also a time of powerful growth and expansion. It's a maturation point in your young adulthood, right? It's that place where you really put pedal to the metal and you get serious about, okay, I've explored all my options. I've looked at the world. I've seen it all. I've done it all. What do I really want? And it's Saturn's energy, Saturn's fire that comes along underneath you and lifts you up and pushes you more closely towards the fulfillment of your purpose and what you're here to really do. I'm seeing that there's questions and comments happening. Cindy, do I need to stop?
Nope.
Okay. So when you're looking at Saturn's position, I'm just showing you, this is where you will find Saturn on your chart. You don't have to look at where it shows up on your actual body graph, but I want you to look at the planets and see in your chart what Saturn's position is in your chart. So in this particular chart, we see Saturn is in the 24 conscious and in the 2 unconscious. So when you're looking at, okay, what is Saturn telling me? What you're seeing is the challenge here is how do you harmonize the highest expression of both of these archetypes, the archetype of the gate 24 and the archetype of the gate 2, how do you bring those two themes in the highest expression so that they are supporting and fulfilling each other so that you can bring out the lessons and the mastery of your Saturn energy? Okay, so you're looking at how do you create harmony or synchrony, alignment, or how do you harness these two energies together to bring out the highest potential of what's in your Saturn position? When we're looking at Saturn, we have to look at, and this is the blessing of Saturn, Saturn gives us a nice map, right? Saturn gives us a map, and the map says, if you do what's in Saturn, if you master the challenge of Saturn, you get a reward. It's like if you go to spin class, right? When you do high intensity intervals and you're like completely depleted and exhausted, and you're done with the interval when you get to do 2 minutes on a flat road, right? That's your Jupiter. So Saturn gives you that rest after you've climbed the mountain. I'm sorry, Jupiter gives you that rest after you climb the mountain. It's the reward at the end of mastering the Saturn challenge. So when you look at your chart and you look at your Jupiter position, Jupiter looks like that funky number 4 with a big head on it, right? Your Jupiter is going to tell you, what are you going to get? Where are your blessings going to come from? What's the source of your support when you master the challenge in your Saturn? So these two energies play together quite beautifully, and they actually lay out the demarcation spot between young adulthood and mature young adulthood. Oops. All right, I just want to show you this before, and then I'm going to, because we have 2 Saturn cycles in life. So I want to show you this because some of you may be in your 2nd Saturn cycle, and it's a little bit different than the 1st Saturn cycle. And then when I'm done with this, I'm actually going to play with some Saturn themes, just so you kind of see what that might look like in a real chart. So there's a 2nd phase in life that's after the 40-year mark. Remember, when we cross the 40-year mark, we are looking at the theme of how do I take my individuated self and use that self to be of service to the greater whole. Now, along that journey, there are some other major life cycles that happen. I'm not talking about them today, but I'll tell you what they are. There is the Uranus opposition life cycle that happens approximately between the ages of 38 and 42. That used to be the more traditional midlife point in the chart. I actually kind of teach more now that midlife happens a little bit later. The 2nd major planetary life cycle that happens in the human design chart is your Chiron return, and that happens between 48 and 52. Now, we don't talk about this a lot, but I actually find that the decade between 50 and 60 can be pretty intense. We tend to think, oh, our youth, it's so tumultuous and there's so much upheaval in our youth. And I actually think that 50 to 60 can be a lot rougher than 20 to 30. And part of why it is we have 2 major life cycles that hit in that decade, Chiron at 48 to 52. And then we actually have a 2nd Saturn cycle towards the end of your 50s, around the age of 58, plus or minus a few years, plus or minus a few years. Now, I'm just going to tell you really quickly, Chiron is an energy that really begs of you, are you really ready to grow up? Are you really ready to live your purpose? Are you really ready to fulfill not only your life purpose, but your soul purpose? So oftentimes when we have Chiron at the beginning of 50s, we have to get serious, eyeball to eyeball with ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves, am I ready to push forward? Am I ready to really do what I came here to do? I've done everything I should do. I've raised my family. I've met all my obligations. Now I want to do what I came here to do. What does that look like? If you don't figure that out in the beginning of your 50s, you get another opportunity at the end of your 50s when Saturn comes around. And Saturn comes around, and this time Saturn's not playing around. I actually find that sometimes this Saturn cycle, if you're not ready for it, and you haven't been working towards alignment, and you're really out of alignment with your true self, this 2nd Saturn cycle at the end of 50 can be very difficult. And I'll tell you, most of my clients, when they call, they're either in Chiron return or Saturn return, this 2nd Saturn return, and they're hurting. And you don't have to hurt. I talk about this and I'm making it sound like, oh, it's so terrible. It doesn't have to hurt. It can actually be a PowerPoint if you understand how to work with it, if you know it's coming and you know what the purpose of it is. The purpose of this 2nd Saturn cycle is that it actually marks the final phase of surrender to the cosmic self or the soul. This is really if you don't finish up in Chiron, getting clear about who am I, what am I here to do, the 2nd Saturn cycle will swing through and go, okay, this is it, your final countdown. Are you really ready to do what you came here to do? What's the legacy that you want to leave on this planet? Cindy, you're going to ask me something?
I am, or I'm going to ask, I don't know if you already made this clear. But some people might not know what return means. I mean, you talk about the Saturn return or the opposition, and those are astrological terms, but what it means, like in my Saturn return, that means that in those 28 years, it's actually going to return to my natal gates.
Yes, so what that means is that a Saturn return means that at that point in time, Saturn returns to the position that it was in at the moment of your birth. And it does that twice over the course of your life. So it happens at the end of 20 and at the end of 50. It comes back all the way around the astrological wheel and returns to the position that it was in at the moment of your birth. Uranus, which moves a lot slower than the other planets, at Uranus opposition, it means the planet Uranus is in the position opposite on the astrological wheel, the opposite of where it was at the moment of your birth. So it's all the way across on the other side of the wheel. Chiron return means that Chiron returns to the position it was in at the moment of your birth. And of course, your second Saturn return, same thing. Saturn has gone around again and returned to the position that it was in at the moment of your birth. Sorry, thank you for clarifying that, Cindy. So your second Saturn cycle is the final phase of surrender to the cosmic self, the soul. And again, it's Saturn that brings that fire, that incentive, that proving point, that energy that moves you into that full fulfillment of that cosmic self, your soul path. So the first Saturn cycle is about you emerging as your individuated self, the full mature expression of your individuated self. The second Saturn cycle says, how do you become the full expression of the integrated version of your cosmic self, your soul path? So there's a young Saturn cycle and then the more mature Saturn cycle. Both, of course, have the function of burning away everything in your life that's keeping you from being the fulfillment of where you need to be in that particular cycle of your life. Okay, get out of here. So here's what I want to do now. I want to do an example. Let me do an example. And from this example, then I'll open the call up. And if you have your chart in front of you, we'll start looking at least a couple of Saturn returns energies or Saturn energies, just so that you can understand exactly how to do this and hopefully be able to start working on this on your own. So let's look at this chart as an example. In this chart, we see that Saturn is in the conscious 24 and the unconscious 2. Now, the 24 is the energy for rationalizing. In its highest expression, the 24 is all about finding the blessings in the pain, finding the gifts in challenge and struggle. It's also about, sometimes in its low expression, rationalizing or tolerating less than what you really deserve in your life. So sometimes when we have the 24 on our chart, anywhere in the chart, we have a tendency to tolerate or allow or rationalizing being stuck, putting up with less than what we deserve, putting up with relationships that don't honor us. We explain and we rationalize receiving less than what we're worthy of. The 2 is actually the most yin hexagrams in the chart. It's yin-yin. It is actually called the receptive or the keeper of the keys. The 2 is all about receiving and allowing yourself to receive support. It has a certain amount of self-esteem associated with it, right? For you to allow yourself to receive to the degree to which you are really worthy, you have to know your value, right? You have to be in the full expression of your value, and you have to trust the universe, right? You have to trust that if you let go, that you will be given everything you need to fulfill your purpose. So when I see Saturn in the 24 and the 2, it tells me that the challenge to harmonize these two energies is to learn to discover the value of who you are so that you can break yourself free from rationalizing, receiving less than what you're worthy of, and you can allow yourself to then increase what you're willing to allow yourself to receive and open up to creating and allowing greater levels of support, greater levels of nourishment, greater levels of money, greater levels of access to resources so that you can deepen the expression of who you are and do what you really came here to do, and deepen your sense of value so that you can stand in that value and ultimately contribute more from that place of value. Now, in this particular, so that's the challenge this person has in their Saturn. They have to discover their value so that they can stop rationalizing, receiving less than what they're worthy of, and allow themselves to receive more so that they can do more and be more and have more and create greater things. The reward here in the Jupiter, the reward is that they get rewarded when they complete this process with more ideas, more possibilities, more openings to create even more than what they maybe have allowed themselves to create before. And they get rewarded with self-empowerment and self-love. They ultimately not only get rewarded from self-empowerment and self-love, but these rewards are ultimately not only about what you receive, but what you get back to the world. So from this awareness, not only do you get more ideas, more self-love, you also ultimately go out into the world and give people ideas about how they can love themselves better. And that's a source of revenue or support rewards for you.
So can you realize those were two different charts, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'm just doing it hypothetically.
Okay. Well, we do have some people that have actually typed in what their Saturn is.
Let's do that. Let's type in Saturns. Let's work with Saturn. So
and we have about 8 minutes.
Yes. So I'll do it as fast as I can.
Okay. Leanne says Saturn, conscious 32, unconscious 57.
Okay. That's cool. Both splenic. Okay. So the 32 is ambition. And it's the energy to have the drive and the commitment and the patience to wait for right timing for your dreams to manifest. The 57 is actually the most intuitive or psychic gate in the chart. So part of what is in this chart, and I would venture to guess if I looked at the rest of your chart, I think Leanne, right? That the rest of your chart probably has an entire theme about learning to trust yourself and to trust your intuition. So I would say everything about this chart is about trusting your intuition and knowing that when you trust your intuition, you'll be given the keys to know when it is the right time to strike to manifest your dreams. And that if you're pushing, if you're not waiting, if you're going out in the world and forcing and not trusting divine timing, things are going to be a little bumpy for you. You should look at your Jupiter too.
Well, let's not do Jupiter right now.
Okay, all right.
I've got a bunch of people coming in there.
Got it. Let's just do Saturn. Sorry.
Okay, so I've got Evelina, Saturn 26 and 5.
Okay, so the 26 is all about truth and integrity, and the 5 is about patterns and habits. So this is about, and also natural order, this is about knowing, trusting your own intuitive awareness about when things are right and good and aligned with divine order or not. Again, for you, same as Leanne before, your theme here is learning to trust yourself and to trust your own instincts about what's right and what's not. And if things don't smell right, they don't feel right, if your habits or if the things that you're doing consistently to stay aligned with your intuition, if everything's falling off and you're struggling with finding the right way to stay connected to your own inner source of truth and you're not trusting yourself, it's going to get messy. Okay, next.
Okay. Martha had, did I do this one already? 1126?
No, we didn't. We did 1126. So again, the 26 is integrity and truth. 11 is ideas. This is about trusting your intuition to know which ideas are worth putting the effort into manifesting. And if you're not trusting that inner guidance and you're not waiting for things to show up and you're trying to manifest things that are out of integrity because you don't trust, you'll get overwhelmed with trying to create too many things at once. You'll get overwhelmed with too many ideas and you'll get paralyzed because you have so many ideas you won't know which one is true. So again, for you, this theme of trust yourself is coming up a couple of things. Trust your own gut level instincts around what you want to create.
Saturn, Athena's Saturn is 55 in both.
Ooh, that's a good one. So the 55 is a spiritual challenge. 55 is where God lives in the chart. It's called abundance in spirit. And it's the recognition that the abundant, when you create abundantly, this is quantum energy. That when you are in the right energy, the vibrational frequency of abundance, you will be supported. So it is staying in an abundant mindset. That's your challenge. Now, the trick is staying in an abundant mindset. If you slip into lack, if you slip into worry, if you slip into fear, like I won't have enough, and you start to panic, then you move out of trust and you move out of alignment with abundance, and you actually can kind of start miscreating because the panic of feeling like you don't have enough can cause you to hoard or hold back or stay out of the flow. All right, next one, Cindy, I'm unmuting you.
Okay, Lisa is 4919.
Okay, so that's the entire channel of love and marriage. So your Saturn challenge is actually in creating intimacy in relationships and not letting the sensitivity that you experience from being in relationship with others keep you from causing relationships, keep you from doing what you need and want in your own life. You might find when Saturn comes around that you have to create a revolution in your relationships in order to stay more true to yourself. And that revolution might mean you need to break or end relationships, or it might mean you need to learn to stay the course and stay true to the relationships so that you can cultivate true intimacy. Next one. Set.
Lily is 6 and 18.
Okay, so your challenge is having impact with what it is that you know. Lily, your intuition is about recognizing and understanding when patterns are out of alignment. You can smell and instinctively know when a pattern is not correct. And that energy of recognizing when the pattern is not correct, if you just share it in the wrong way, I mean, if you're not waiting, it means that you have the potential to be perceived by others as being critical. You are critical, but it's a good critical. It's a criticism that actually leads to people creating more joy in their life because you fix patterns. That energy is what's called a projected energy in the chart, meaning it's an energy that works best if you wait for people to ask. The 6 in you wants to have impact. You want to share with people. You want people to know that, hey, you're doing it wrong. There's a better way to do it. And you probably have this deep longing to try to transmit what you know about true and right patterns. The challenge for you in Saturn is learning to wait for people to ask so that you can have the right impact with your creative capacity, with your critical capacity, so you can have a positive impact on people as you help them realign their patterns. Next one, Cindy.
Anne has Saturn in 3854.
Okay, 54 is divine inspiration, and the 38 is fighting, the energy of fighting for what's right. So for you, the challenge is knowing what's worth fighting for, knowing how to stay the course and endure so that you can bring your vision of what's right and righteous into form. But there's a theme here of having to be patient and to not end up fighting for something that's not worth fighting for and depleting your energy and then not being available when the right opportunities show up for you to expand your impact and expand your vision and grow your vision out into the world.
Okay, we're at 2 minutes.
Okay, let's do one more, and then I'll sign off.
Okay, Sharon, and just so everyone understands, I'm going back and forth between the Facebook people and the people that are on Zoom, so I'm not ignoring anyone, but trying to go through. Sharon, it's 1941.
So the 19 is deeply sensitive. So the 19 is this sweet, intuitive energy that is all about having the emotional awareness of what's necessary to create true intimacy. The 41 is fantasy. So with this combination, it's easy for you to have fantasies about what is true intimacy and to get so swept up in the fantasy that you might actually miss the real intuitive awareness of what's necessary for real intimacy to happen or to create real intimacy, and the fantasy of the potential intimacy or the potential for intimacy might override the truth, and you might end up getting confused about what's the real intimacy path to follow. Or you might have fantasies about the possibility of intimacy where there isn't possibility, or you might have intimacy about not having intimacy when there really is intimacy. So confusion about intimacy. Okay, hang on just a second.
So for everyone that we didn't get the way that you wrote that you'd always start out the challenge is, and then you could use your book to look at what the gate is, and there's actual affirmations and writing assignments that people could go, well, yes, this might be what I would be challenged with.
Right, so go in here. Yeah, this is super fast, off the cuff. Please know that I've been studying human design for 18 years, so I can whip the stuff off the top of my head. It might take some of you a little bit of practice, and that's okay. So here's what I would say. Find your 2 Saturn gates in here. So for example, this is the gate 22. It's where openness. Okay, the gate of grace. This is the awareness that when I surrender, I will be supported to do everything I need to do, to have all the resources I need to make a contribution to the world, right? That's grace. If that's your Saturn challenge, or if that's what's in your Saturn, ask yourself, where am I challenged with surrendering? How is the challenge of surrender showing up in my life? What do I need to heal, release, align, and bring into my awareness for me to trust that if I surrender and let go, I will be given everything that I need. That's the question that I encourage you to play with. So look at the theme, look at the gate, go through the questions in the book, look at the story of that gate, look at that story of that gate in the conscious position, look at what's your Saturn unconscious position is, see if you can't craft some kind or see some kind of conflict between those two themes. You probably will. And ask yourself, what do you need to do to bring those two energies into harmony with each other? Now, that being said, let's talk about what's coming up. If you are on the cusp of a challenge, if you've gone through a life cycle and you feel like you didn't master the challenge, if you think you got a challenge coming up, if you feel like you're in the midst of any kind of cycle of big change, I do have a brand new program that's coming up May the 6th. It's an online program. We'll be here from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Plus, it has bonus sessions, meaning we're going to be talking about all day long on May the 6th. Life cycles we're going to go through, the solar return cycles we're going to go through, which is what happens every year on your birthday. We're going to go through Saturn return cycles. We're going to go through Uranus. We're going to go through Chiron and Saturn again. In addition to giving you a skill set, a really solid skill set, how to interpret these positions and these themes in your chart and how to look at how these may be impacting you in your life and the evolution of your life path and where you are in your life path. We're going to also have breakout sessions. These are going to be at a different date. We'll have a special breakout session just for people who are in their Saturn return cycle. We'll have special breakout sessions just for people who are going through Uranus opposition so that you can come, get your questions answered, and hang out with people who are going through the same thing so that you can learn to use these cycles to maximize them as power points in your life cycle, in your life, not places where you get creamed and smushed and wonder, why the heck am I doing this? This is one of my monthly programs that is an open program, meaning this program is open to everyone. I have 3 levels of participation. You can pay $347 and get a 30-minute life cycle analysis reading with me. You can pay $247. You'll get a quantum alignment flower essence, and you'll also get an essence. Oh, sorry, I'm misreading it. You get a copy of my Inside the Body of God book. You'll also get a quantum alignment flower essence for your life cycle, and a quantum alignment flower essence will be donated to another student in your name. If you pay $347, you'll get the copy of Inside the Body of God, a quantum alignment flower essence. We'll donate a copy of Inside the Body of God to a fellow student, and we'll donate a flower essence to a fellow student, and you'll be gifted a 30-minute life cycle analysis with me. Now, there's, just informing you, the $347 level, there's only 10 of those spots left, and we've already sold a couple of those. If you are not able to participate at these levels, you may pay whatever you can. So I'm going to include a link for you on this page. So everybody's invited. Everybody can participate. I do not want to make this material exclusive to anyone. We are working in a community collaborative way to create the stream of income that we need to make this event a go. We need to make $8,000 with this event to pay for Cindy and Kristen and the administrative costs, the costs of all the materials, the costs of running the platform, and the scheduling system, and all the back-end stuff that you don't need to know about in order to make this event a go. So I will give you a daily update as to where we are with our income related to the program. We've never had to not host an event. This has always worked out, and it's a beautiful way for everybody to be able to participate. And so I just kind of want to, I love to do this way. Because it's kind of fun and exciting to have everybody in there and to make sure everybody gets a chance to participate in this material, especially this material. Because here's the thing, if you get this stuff, if you really get these cycles, it really empowers you to be able to really proactively work on this so that these cycles don't become places where you feel like the rug's been pulled out from under you and you don't know what to do. They become places where they're power points of your creative expansion. And you can start to use these energies in a powerful way proactively to when Saturn or Uranus or Chiron comes around, you can then grow beyond where you are right now. You can use these planetary energies kind of as fire under your cauldron to really cook up the full expression of the gold of your essence. So, okay, that's it. Cindy, thank you as always. We'll post all the links below for those of you on Facebook. We've already got stuff in the chat. I thank you so much for joining me. I hope you got a little bit of insights into your Saturn. Again, go through the book and hopefully it'll give you some ideas. Post any questions that you might have below on Facebook, and we'll come back and visit those over the next couple of days and see if I can't tackle a couple more Saturns. Have a great weekend. Next week on the Quantum Alignment Show, we'll have a special guest, and I'll get more information to you next week during the Human Design Update. Have a great week, and take care of yourselves.